Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and The Boys Season 2 ended with a twist very few saw coming. Maybe because anyone who was about to say it out loud got their heads popped by Jeff Bezos. This season's mystery skull exploder who murdered CIA Deputy Director Rayner, at least 14 people at a congressional hearing, including a congressman, a new member of the Seven Shockwave, former Vought CSO Jonah Vogelbaum, and others, was not Church of the Collective head Alistair Adana, who no longer has one, nor Vought head Stan Edgar, who still has his for now and might have been involved in this plot, nor telekinetic body imploder Cindy, nor Beardy. Apologies to that extra. But it was confirmed to be Congresswoman Victoria Neuman. Icky Vicky, as I'm gonna call her. The AOC-inspired politician who kept reappearing throughout the season, who seemed fundamentally opposite from whatever the head popper's motives were looking like, but as the obvious target who miraculously managed to survive that attack, probably should have been looked at more closely. And as I rewatched this season, this show did an amazing job concealing this, with clues just easy enough to overlook, but in retrospect all line up pretty neatly. So I'm gonna break down every Neuman clue we missed, and look at her possible next moves in The Boys Season 3, which will begin production next year. So throughout the season, Neuman was publicly accusing Vought of corruption and conspiracy after reports of the company's use of Compound V to create soups. She ended up in a social media war with Homelander and Stormfront, the two of them stirring up fear over soup terrorists, a growing threat that would necessitate the need for Compound V, and a threat that reached its peak at the congressional hearing in which Neuman brought in Vogelbaum to testify against Vought before this happened. In the aftermath of that attack, the Secretary of Defense told Neuman that the government would be distributing Compound V to law enforcement, which is good news for Stan Edgar, who confirmed this season that he is all about pharma-driven profit. Make Compound V a consumer product to drive up Vought's stock value. Edgar and Neuman must therefore be in cahoots, working this debate from both sides, with both having plausible deniabilities since both anti-Vought government leaders died and a member of the Vought's Seven died. Adana was killed because he had more dirt on Vought, and it was his cult's meticulous record keeping that allowed Stormfront to be outed as a Nazi, and Stormfront was instrumental in that fear campaign to get Vought on the streets. But presumably Stormfront's downfall forced Vought to reevaluate its strategy to instead blame the head pops on her. But both Edgar and Neuman remain in power, with Neuman poised to be elected into higher office. See, Neuman's name comes from Victor Neuman in the Boys comics, aka Vic the Veep, the airheaded vice president controlled by Vought as a puppet and eventually becomes president. The show's counterpart, Icky Vicky, let's make that stick, is also apparently working in Vought's interests, but with a more devious and deadly agenda. So I'm assuming that will be the threat of Season 3, the coup that Rayner worried about coming true, with Neuman's political fame rising and rising all the way to the White House, baby, where she would be cloaked in immense power to help Vought dominate pharmaceuticals and secure a windfall for Edgar. And as a super sub with the power to pop heads, I don't think she'd be that worried about out-of-control soups all over the world. So the two things we know about Neuman's head popping ability are: 1, she requires direct line of sight, and 2, shortly after the attack, her eyes briefly roll over white, maybe like a firearm discharging an empty shell, a reset. So let us apply these two rules to her past appearances, starting with the Congress attack at the end of episode 7. So the first head to pop was that of Neuman's fellow congressman, whom Neuman was looking directly at. Smart of her to begin with a congressman instead of Vogelbaum, because that makes this attack look more like a political assassination with a lot of people just caught in the crossfire. Neuman was also probably looking at Vogelbaum for this pop. And then there's this quick close-up of her in which you can barely see Neuman's eyes darting from one angle to another, corresponding with 2 pops, one of them shockwave. Neuman then remains frozen, transfixed on the crowd, but not out of paralytic fear as we thought, but focused death stares. Then Mallory grabs her, but right then you can almost make out a white glare in Neuman's eyes. That could be the recharge, could just be the light from the window, but when Mallory and Neuman make their way for the door, the pops pause briefly until Neuman's chief of staff, Lisa. But Lisa doesn't die until Neuman first turns around to look at her. That right there is smoking gun proof. And then after running back to Lisa, Neuman sits back in one of the seats, wide-eyed, eyes darting around the room just to get in as many more head pops as she can. Man. And speaking of going out with a bang with a delicious carbonated beverage, thank you to Bang Energy for sponsoring this video. Ooh. That's so good. Every can of Bang is 16 ounces. It contains 300 milligrams of caffeine. It's sugar-free and it has 0 calories, yet it tastes great with over 20 different flavors to choose from. This one is pina colada, a true tropical delight. with every sip giving you the energy to do a million limbo dips. Check out Bang on Instagram. You can get 25% off your order at bangenergy.com when you use the code NEWROCKSTARS25. There you can buy cans of Bang Energy, including sweet tea, keto coffee flavors, Star Blast is a good one, purple guava pear. You can also get clothing, fitness supplements, all kinds of stuff to be your best Bang self. Feel like the boys, be a Bang boy. Take a bang, take a sip, be a boy. Thanks again to Bang Energy for sponsoring this video. Get 25% off at bangenergy.com using the code NEWROCKSTARS25. Now, jumping back to Neuman's first strike against Raynor in episode 1.
Ma'am, your nose.
Now, in those background shots, there is quite a bit of movement. Across the river behind Raynor, on the sidewalk by the street on the other side of the parking lot, there are a few parked cars that Neuman could easily be sitting in with an audio amplifying microphone, you know, like they have on the side of football fields. But the real clue comes in the edit.
Frenchie, who do you know who can do that?
No one! Immediate cut to!
Look, I have a daughter. I'm worried about super terrorists too.
Yeah, that editing answered MM's question. Victoria Neuman was the one who did this. Also, it's worth noting, Stan Edgar is often watching Neuman on TV. Here he is carefully observing how she is playing this. And then he watches her again in episode 3.
My dad always used to say, where there's smoke, there's fire. So Vought lied to us about Compound V. What else are they lying to us about?
And then in episode 5, Neuman speaks at the rally.
Vought has all the money and the power. And we have, no offense, Jack shit. But after Homelander's war crime, how can I stay quiet and still look my daughter in the eyes?
Yeah, look my daughter in the eyes. Interesting choice of words. And then when Homelander crashes a rally, her eyes stay glued to Homelander. Like she hardly blinks once. She is ready to pop his head if she needs to. Now later that episode, we see the first of Stormfront's Neuman memes, a parody of the photo they tend to use for AOC memes. Superheroes invade my personal space. Kind of the way her telekinesis literally invades others' personal space inside their skulls. Episode 7 opens with another one of those memes, an image of Neuman with a target on her head, reading target acquired. Ironic considering in her mind it is likely a similar bullseye on the heads of others. But this episode, Butcher correctly worries about Neuman's corruption.
Congress, please. What a bunch of corrupt fucking they are.
But it was Neuman who fought for a higher up whistleblower at Vought to be dragged out into the light.
If we're gonna take a shot at the king, we can't fucking miss.
We know someone who might know the full picture.
Who is it?
Like you said, we're gonna have to trust each other.
Yet Mallory refused to disclose this contact to Neuman right in this moment. Otherwise, Neuman could have totally taken out Vogelbaum before the hearing. And then after that massacre in episode 8, Neuman keeps up the act to probe Singer to test how much of a political obstacle he will be to her.
Yeah, we know we were there, remember? Covered in my chief of staff's brains. Look, there was no terrorist. It was Vought. It's a coup.
A bunch of their guys died too.
To cover their own tracks.
For the record, I agree with you.
And notice Neuman's reaction when the secretary says,
Doses are going for $5 million a pop. Pentagon's got a big order in.
yeah, she was looking directly at him, but him saying the word pop nearly triggered her, so she was like, oh, I gotta look away. Kudos to The Boys Season 2 for hiding this so well, because it was such an amazing reveal that made going back through the season so rewarding. I suggest you rewatch as well. And you can discuss all things nerdy with me on New Rockstars' official Discord server by becoming a patron at patreon.com/newrockstars. Subscribe to New Rockstars, hit that notification bell. Follow me on Instagram at EA Voss. Follow New Rockstars. Thank you for watching. Now I gotta celebrate a wonderful season with a bang.